Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
The coronavirus emergency.
It's a tremendous health threat.
4,000 people are in quarantine.
Are being asked to self-quarantine.
Mandatory quarantine.
Y'all up there in them big cities running around in them little old crowded apartments. Everybody's under quarantine. I've taken social distancing to a new level. They said, what'd you do? I did what I always do. Get up in the morning, get me a shot of coffee, stay in the woods. Well, I've chosen to be about halfway quarantined, 3/4 of the way quarantined, 90% quarantine on my own. Next few weeks, we'll just give you a glimpse of what being under quarantine, pulling back, pull away from the fast lane. We're running out of toilet paper. It's already kind of like on a roll for me. How much do you need? The finer things of life could disappear like that. What do you do then? Starve to death? Not this bunch. You want to see roughly what time it is? Pretty good way to tell time and see what direction you're having all at the same time. It's about peace of mind, tranquility. A long way from the coronavirus. Wisdom, discernment. You'd have a mess unless you have gray beards. You got a gray beard, you're like, stay ahead of it, prepare. We make the most of it. Complete peace of mind living within that. I'll show you how to do it. You can take it or leave it. Your call. I am unashamed. What about you? The process keeps you from being free. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Rules, 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 rules.
I'm always going to err on the side of grace.
All right, we ready to start?
I thought we had started.
No, well, we had till that big belch, and then that was.
I think that kind of. I'm talking about grace and Phil's belch.
So I guess we're welcome to the quarantined, unashamed command center.
Lockdown.
We are in some strange days, boys. This is
Phil, you're looking like a genius now.
Yeah,
and so am I.
I'm telling you.
People used to call me a germophobe for not wanting to shake people's hands, and now they're like, "Boy, that guy was a genius before his
But now
time."
even your fist bump is out. You know, because no hand to hand. So it's
more and more they're vindicating me by saying. They've done a recent study that where you need to, at a certain period of time, do not use your cell phone. I mean, your children, they're beginning, and I'm sitting there listening to them, and I'm like, well, I was the fool who said, I don't know, that's a little
Wait
much.
a minute. Who said don't use your cell phone?
Well, I mean, they come out with a study the other day, and they've recommended you don't use them in whatever for a period of time. But the bottom line is, I haven't heard that.
I missed that study.
That's on Fox News.
Well, then it has to.
They got to remember something. You say, I've never gone around and say everybody ought to get rid of their cell phones. I've just made the statement
that I don't want one.
Is there some tie-in?
I don't mind if you have cell phones, because the only way people are hearing us right now, it's on cell phones
or a computer.
So if everybody did what I did, there wouldn't be any cell phones.
Does this have anything to do with the coronavirus, or is this a different issue?
No, it can't go through the satellite, but which is it's a safe device when it comes to coronavirus. You won't get it through the satellite beaming down on the
Well,
tower.
let's hope not.
So was it not using other people's cell phones? I mean, I was trying to. So it doesn't link to the virus.
It said this study said. You need to curtail the amount of time you have a cell phone right next to your ear.
I got you. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay, well, I don't know how we got off on that.
Well,
me either.
Because when you're in quarantine, like Dad, that's what happens.
Well, I'm trying to tell y'all, I'm self-quarantined, no doubt about it. without a cell phone, you say, well, you're pretty well out of luck.
Well, they
not really,
said
because we're doing this now. We're being filmed, and people with cell phones are hearing what it's like to be under self-quarantine.
Well, you know what they said today? They said people over the age of 65 should self-quarantine.
And I'm here to tell them I've been under self-quarantine basically for about a decade.
I was going to say 50 years.
Yeah,
it may go back further than that. You're right. I mean,
so just to let our audience know, I'm going to tease what we're about to do. We hadn't worked it all out yet, but on Dad's other show, which is called In the Woods with Phil, we're going to do In the Woods with Phil, the quarantine series. So if you haven't checked out that show, it's going to be. But look, in a serious way to talk about it, you have discovered, you and Mom, and it's a carrying on tradition from Granny and Paul, a lot of ways to be able to take care of yourself and feed yourself without having, the run on Walmart.
I've said this before. If you had pulled up in front of the Robertson's house when I was a boy, all 7 children, if you had pulled up there in 1950,
yeah,
you would have thought, if you pulled up there, that it was 1850. If you had looked at the log house, the children standing in the yard, the old bathtub, no hot water unless you boil it, and if you just looked around, walked around, there's a milk cow down there, there's 3 or 4 hogs over in the pen, a mule, and if you just looked down there around the barn, if you just looked around, you'd say, no, this is not 1950. This is 1850. Right. Well, my dad, he was 18. He didn't get on board with 1950 and high tech whatever. No, it was a very, very low tech. No medicinal, no medicines. It's just, no regimen of pills.
Well, people also died. The average lifespan was actually lower.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not saying whether you're going to live. I mean, Paul made it to 84, and Ma made it to 96. Yeah. I'm just saying. It was a very simple.
And they were definitely. I mean, because we lived out here with them for 15 years. I would say they were in the social distance camp, wouldn't you, Jase, Granny and Paul? I mean, I
didn't hear my grandpa speak for about the first 5 years.
He didn't speak much.
He didn't have much to say.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything.
He was but when he did get going about Ezekiel or whatever he was happened to be on, he had his moments.
When he died, I read the book of Ezekiel because I thought, that was his favorite book.
Oh, he loved it. He preached out of it.
So then I read the book, and I thought, whew.
He wasn't much of a speaker, I have to say. I mean, I loved him and, appreciated him, but he didn't have a very dynamic way of going about it. But he studied the Bible. He and Granny, too.
When we went to that little church that Phil and them started out here in our community, every time he would get up to preach, I would lean over and tell Willie or whoever, I'd say, turn over to the book of Ezekiel, and he'd say, turn over to the book of Ezekiel.
Every sermon was out of Ezekiel.
If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law, which are written in this book, Old Testament, 3,500 years ago, 3,500 years ago, and if you do not revere this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants. So it'll be a generational thing. Harsh and prolonged disasters and severe and lingering illnesses. He will bring upon you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and the diseases, will cling to you. Hard to cure, low on antibiotics in this time frame. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in this book of the law until you are destroyed. You read a 3,500-year-old writing like that, and you say, well, one thing's for sure, the viral infection, the pestilences, and the plagues, it's not a new thing.
No, they've always been around.
This is way back. So you look at that and you say, judgment of God on the human race. All I know is he has done that before.
True.
It's alluded to in the New Testament, that 1 Corinthians 10, where in one day 23,000 died because they got up and just went nuts with being immoral in front of him. And
But he also allowed Job to be attacked by the evil one who put diseases.
That is correct.
So
I'm just
quick
saying to give the blame.
It's not a new thing.
no.
No, that's true. But how do you know which camp it is?
Well, there you go.
Al did the service yesterday in virtual.
Yeah, it was a live
reality.
stream. So
Yeah.
basically, like most large churches, we've got about 1,000 members church, and so instead of meeting, our governor asked, for people not to meet bigger than a couple hundred people.
Well, now it's 50.
Yeah, I saw that. It's getting even
In
lower.
24 hours, it's gone from 250 to 50.
So we basically, Mike and I, my co-pastor at the church, so we got together and just basically gave a little charge to the church. Most of the church was meeting, either they were just their families or a lot of them.
Yeah, it was just my family at the house.
Groups,
we like live stream 3 different services. Ours,
Which
we
is
took the Lord's Supper. It was good.
Right.
But one of the verses I recommended that you read, and you did, was because I'm going to see
This is really good.
see that and raise Phil Psalm 103, 1-5. Praise the Lord, O my soul, all my inmost being. Praise his holy name. Praise the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your sins and heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit and crowns you with love and compassion, who satisfies your desires with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. I think it's in this time that gives me comfort knowing that I may not need a miracle, but I have the one who's capable of any kind of healing or miraculous power, who's for me. I have a relationship with him. So what am I worried about?
And that was part of our point yesterday was, since you don't know, is this from the Almighty? Is this from the evil one? Is this some other deal from nature? It's how we react to it becomes the thing, because anytime you're living in something, I mean, I was like most people, and Jase, you were probably there. Like, I felt like the whole thing was overblown at the beginning because I was like, not that many people. I mean, you hate anybody to die, but compared to other things, and most people were talking in that vein. So I felt like it was a little overblown. But once we got there, once it became what it's become, then you got to figure out how you're going to deal with it. Because,
now I was like you, and Missy was more than me. She's like, this is ridiculous. What are these people? I mean, it's the flu.
Right.
But when you kind of realize that here's our country, we're Americans, and they said, let's come up with a plan to try and save as many people as possible and to keep the virus from spreading. So let's self-quarantine. Let's, and it's evolved. All the sporting events shut down, and you go through this. And so now I get it. I thought you had a good point yesterday. They're basically trying to protect the vulnerable, which is pretty much people over 60, I guess. Or
70 and up. I mean, the numbers get higher as the older you get.
And it's like my assistant said, because here I have all these events. Well, I had an event in Detroit, Michigan this past weekend.
Tell them what happened on that.
Yeah, and they didn't cancel the event. I kept sending her a text saying, are you sure they're not canceling? I mean, Detroit, Michigan's a long way. They're not canceling. So I get on a plane, and to my surprise, because I'd been watching the media, I thought there was going to be no one on the airport. I thought I would be literally by myself. But I looked around, nope, the plane's full. So I'm like, well, I don't guess these people got the memo either. So I go to Atlanta, I look, there's tens of thousands of people.
Like
I'm
always.
like, well, what?
And not many masks either, right? Like, I was expecting
Very
to see
few.
a few.
I told Missy I'd say less than 1%.
Yep.
So we make it to Detroit,
It's
Michigan.
It's hard for 300 million people to hide.
Well, right. And so we get to the event, and I, start. They had, it was a Christian school, and the kids who had sold the most tickets or whatever, I had a little deal with them, but they said that was going to last 15 minutes. Well, after about 2 hours, I'm looking around at my assistant and said, what happened to 15 minutes? I've been here 2 hours, and it was good because I was sharing Jesus with the kids and how to live like Jesus in school. But I was running out of material after a couple of hours because what I didn't know is the governor of Michigan had passed this edict because I was right there in the moment. And the hotel where they were going to host the dinner and where I was going to speak to everyone, they said, you can't come here. And now they had 600 people. And this group was saying, we're going to trust God and we're going to meet. And the people at the event said, well, you can trust God all you want, but you ain't meeting here.
Trust him somewhere else.
Well,
right?
yeah. So they then, my assistant got to do an investigation.
So how close are you to the start of the event when you get this
Well,
word?
they said at 5 o'clock is when the edict from the governor goes into place. Well, it's like 3 o'clock right now because I'm at the school that's, getting the funds.
The axe has fallen, but the ramifications have not come
I
forward.
wasn't going to speak till 7. And so they kind of asked me about it. I was like, well, it's easier to get forgiveness than permission, But then they told me that, well, the place said you can't come here. We'll lock the doors. And so they're all sitting around thinking what we're going to do. And I find myself kind of in the board meeting because I looked around. I was like, this is the board of this school, and we're having a meeting, and I'm here. And so they're all talking about, maybe we should just order pizza and have it here. And I thought, what are we doing here? I was like, can we not postpone this? And when I said that, it was like, oh, well, yeah, sure we can. Let's get the calendars out. So I think they were feeling like it was weird because I'm here.
Yeah.
And we were fixed to do this, but now we're not. So what does that mean to our negotiation? And it got awkward. And I'm like, no, I'll just come back. And so if you're in the Michigan area, I think I'll be back like June 11th. So hopefully it has died down back then.
Well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back because Dad had a cancellation. I want to talk about that too.
So anyway, I spent 2 days in Detroit. One of the greatest airports there is in the world.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I got to know it well. But on the way back, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to because I sensed the fear and panic. Everybody was keeping their distance, and I had my little cotton gloves on like that was going to do something. But people are recognizing me everywhere I go, because I have germophobe tendencies already. And I thought,
which are handy now.
I thought, you know what I'm going to do? On the way back home, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I would normally do. I said, I'm not going to be a part of the fear and panic because I'm out here. I'm with the thousands of people, So it started when I got to, I was walking by the little pretzel shop. What are those things?
Annie Ann's.
Yeah. I was going to get me those little cinnamon. I mean, they're good if you had ever had them. So I get up
I
there.
like that little hot dog pretzel. I can't eat it on my diet. But.
Well, I'm in line, and people are recognizing me because I got my camo on, and I'm taking pictures, and that's what I'm saying. Why am I going to be fearful? Because for who I am and where I go, people they put their arm around you, and we take a picture, and it's kind of weird.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Well, right, and I'm like, you know what? I'm all in. Gloves are off. Because one of the ladies in line, she was like, our flight's been delayed. I'm on the plane with you. And I'm like, yeah, it's weird because I don't know this woman. But someone's, that's the normal person. They don't have people coming up saying, hey, our flight's delayed.
She's giving you a personal update.
Yeah, she knows I'm headed to Monroe, and she knows I'm Jase, and we're nowhere near our gate. And I said, are you sure? And she's like, oh, I'm 100% sure. I was like, well, thank you. I thought, which is so nice, and she was right.
Yeah.
So I bought my little pretzel, and then I just left my change because it was like $2 or $3. I put a 20, and I was like, I'm going to leave this money here, and everybody that's behind me, I want to pay for whatever they order until this money's gone. Well, when I did that, because I thought I'm going to do the opposite of what I'm fixed to be engaging. I'm buying everybody pretzels. Well, they all started hooping and hollering.
It's not big bucks, but it's a kind gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a random act of kindness.
Right.
And so
it was an Oprah moment for Jase.
I did an Oprah moment. So look, then I go down to my gate, and I sat down. There was an African American. I thought there was a couple, but it was a man and his daughter, and they just start going nuts. Like loud and screaming, and I'm looking at them because I don't know why I didn't think, oh, they're Duck Dynasty fans. That wasn't my first reaction. Mm-hmm. And finally, the daughter said, we're the biggest Duck Dynasty fans ever. And so then the guy, his name was Oscar, huge guy, had kind of blonde braided hair. So, I mean, you can see this guy from the moon. But he was like, man, my brother is going to go crazy. So I said, call him up. Because that's what I'm saying. FaceTime. Let's do it.
You're doing your George Costanza.
Everything that I don't want to do, I'm doing. And so, look, we call his brother up, so he's talking. He's like, look, I met somebody in the airport. Because he's all like, well, you ain't got the coronavirus. They start talking about the coronavirus. I said, see? So when he put that camera to me, this guy goes crazy. He just starts screaming, Jay, So then I start screaming, Well, he's panning the room, and he's living in Virginia, and he gets to his wife, and she's just looking like this. And I went, uh-oh. I said,
not a fan.
Yeah, I said, she doesn't like Duck Dynasty, but she was tricking me. And then she started screaming, Well, I'm screaming. Well, I look around, everybody in the whole end of the airport deal where we're gathering up, which is all over the small town. Everybody's laughing.
So you're in Atlanta at this point?
Yeah, I'm in the Atlanta airport now.
Okay.
You're infusing a little joy.
Everybody's laughing.
And your fellow man.
Look, you know what I mean?
Everybody's happy now, whether they live or die.
Because we got Jase or Duck Dynasty.
So look, so then they go to their son. It's like 1:30 in the afternoon, and he doesn't have a shirt on. And he's back in Virginia on the phone, and I was like, he looked like he just got out of bed. He said, oh, he did. I was like, oh, y'all got bigger problems than that. Your son is sleeping at 1 o'clock. Everybody's laughing, So we did this. Well, then other people from the military came up. One of them's wife. It was her birthday. I was like, call her up. FaceTime. So I did this for a couple of hours.
Because you were delayed anyway.
I was delayed anyway. And I thought, you know what? This is what's meaningful about social interaction. Because there wasn't anything we could do anyway. And so, there was too many people to get 10 feet away from somebody. Yeah, exactly. It was packed.
6 feet, Jay, 6 feet.
Is it 6?
That's the code.
So I thought y'all would get a thrill.
According to Fox News.
Y'all would get a thrill out of that. And look, here's why I told you that story. I thought about 2 Corinthians 11 because I wanted to tie it into something biblical. But I thought, when you look at Paul's life, he was in prison. You remember that time where he was praying and singing, But when he got to 2 Corinthians 11 and he said, everybody's boasting about, their sufferings and what they've been through. And he just said, and here we are thinking about the virus going around. And Paul said, let me just explain to you what I've been through. And he says, I've worked much harder. I've been in prison more frequently. I've been flogged severely. I've been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. I was shipwrecked. Remember, a snake bit him during that, a venomous snake. I spent a night and a day on the open seas. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my own countrymen, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false brothers. I've labored and toiled. I've gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst. I've gone without food. I've been cold and naked. And he said, besides everything else, I face the daily pressures of all the churches. He's like, who is weak and I do not feel weak? And my point is, I thought, I'm not going to sit around and act like I'm scared of getting this. Now, I'm going to do what you said. We're going to be team players with our country and try to protect the vulnerable.
Yep.
But I'm out here now. And I feel like people need a little hope and a little social interaction. So guess what? I'm going to do it. And I had another African-American brother come up and he asked me, he said, do you think this pestilence is the sign of the end of times? And I said, I know where you're getting that from, but I'm just going to tell you right now, in a short answer, no. I said, I'm not worried about something with the equivalent of the flu going around. Good. What if we get it? What if we die? Me and you, we go into heaven. We're not worried about that. I was like, you can't believe a passage that says, 1 Thessalonians 4, when we die, we don't grieve like the rest of men. Well, we also don't panic like the rest of men when there's a virus going around.
That is correct.
So that was kind of my theme. I know that was a long story, but I just thought that's what I did this weekend.
I said that yesterday in the sermon, same thing. It's just we're not like the rest. When you have hope and you believe in the resurrection, it's different.
If there is no God, if there is no God, we all together are going to die. Whether there's a God or whether there's not a God. We are all going to die.
We're all terminal.
We're all terminal. That being the case, I feel a lot more confident and I'm more at ease after reading the Bible story about the resurrection of the dead.
Yep.
I look at that and I say, when you get right down to it, whether it be a viral infection, a gunshot, a snake bite, lightning struck you, a car wreck, heart attack. You start down the list. There's 10,000 ways to die, and you're like, you know what? I feel pretty good here. At least I have one thing, hope.
That's right. I
have hope. Therefore, I'm like Jase, just make the best of it, try to obey the governing authorities. But you say, Miss K calls up and she said, we just got off the plane from our vacation, whatever. They all took off and went north.
Well, they were real concerned.
Oh, yeah. So they get to Miss K said, people are running around in these stores. I've got to wait 45 minutes to get hamburger stuff. If I thought we was going to have hamburgers when I came back. I said, Miss K.
Oh, there's no hamburger meat in the store.
Oh, yeah, no hamburger meat. You got to wait till they grind it. And she said they are running around. This is Miss K. She said they're running around like it's the end of the world.
That's right.
So what I'm saying is some people are filled with fear. A lot of people are. I will just add here to the audience, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Look, you take away hope, biblical hope, faith in Jesus, the resurrection of the dead. You take that away from a human being, you won't believe how afraid they will live their life.
Oh, I mean, Phil, look, you think about what I do.
Hold that point, Jase. We got to take a quick break and then come
Do
back.
not fear was the most off thing Jesus said. Don't fear. Don't fear. Don't be afraid.
Agreed. Quick break and then Jase, you can come in.
You say, what do we do at times like this? I study. I study the Word. People without Jesus, you say, what do? They go buy toilet paper. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
He shared in the humanities so that by his death, so that he might destroy him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. Mm-hmm. The reason they're afraid to die, whether it be coronavirus or anything else, they don't have a faith in the one who can raise them from the dead.
Yeah, it reminds them.
It's another good reason to rethink their position. I mean, give me a break. It
reminds them that they're frail. I've had a bit for the years, when I speak about the products, that corporations produce in the world that try to sell people on spiritual qualities. They try to take your money by subliminally using marketing of selling things only found in Christ. And I've never seen it more clear as I have during this virus. And people don't notice this. You take toilet paper. Your two leading brands, well, Charmin just came out just this past year with their new product, which was called Charmin Forever. And it was a roll the size of a wagon wheel. And what was crazy is I was watching, when it was revealed, I was watching the stock market channel, and they said, look, this is our new product. And it said Charmin Forever. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why would they name it that? And then the guy said, it says it'll last you up to a month. And I'm like, well, that's not forever. But you say, well, why are they selling that to you? Because now I get it. Because that's the number one item that people are searching for during this crisis.
And my question is why? I can't figure it out. You don't get diarrhea. by the way, with the virus. First I thought, well, people just don't understand. They think you get diarrhea. I need a lot of toilet paper. But, toilet paper, I don't know. It just seemed like on all the things.
I think if you're going to wipe off every piece of furniture and every wire and every door handle and every door, if you're going to, you have to wipe it with something.
Oh, I see what
you're
saying.
Going to run out of rags, so you say
well,
toilet
Phil,
paper.
they have chemically.
That's the only thing I can figure out. We're going to wipe off everything,
well,
including
Clorox.
your behind.
Clorox wipes, for that.
Oak leaves for your behind is a lot cheaper, and it will work. That's when you're under quarantine and you run out of overcup. But sometimes sometimes poison ivy will come up an overcup tree. You have to know the difference in the shape of the leaf between poison ivy, which will give you some anal problems, and the big overcup acorn leaf.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's just because look, for everybody who missed the toilet paper,
you best know the difference.
I want to give
we mentioned anal problems on the Unashamed podcast.
Well,
let's give the top 3 leaves for people who missed the toilet paper run. What would you say? The top 3 leaves?
Overcup oak tree, which
overcup, and also
what's another
sweet gum trees. It's got a pretty good leaf on it.
A maple leaf is pretty good.
Yep.
For people, we don't have maple
broadleaves. You want the broadleaf ones.
You don't want
obviously.
You don't want a holly bush, cedar tree, all that. No good.
Well, and when does poison ivy come out? I think it's still dormant right now.
Yeah, well, it'll fix to be out though, but the vine still can nail you.
See, this is what we're going to talk about in the quarantine series.
Yep.
This is what people don't know.
Well, that's a good.
Some leaves do not, especially in that area. Don't mess with those leaves. There's a lot of leaves out there that would cause you some misery.
You act like you know this from experience.
I'm alert. I'm immune to it.
Really?
The poison ivy, I can take it, and it does not bother me.
Well, I'm not. So
I'm immune to it.
I proceed with caution.
But I know a lot of people who are not immune to it.
That's an area we don't want to.
Well, I got back from my trip from Michigan. I go to the grocery store. Well, it looked like in some sections, it looked just like a bomb went off. There was nothing. There was no water, no toilet paper, no milk, no eggs, no dried beans, no peanut oil. None.
I couldn't find any canned beans.
Yeah. So I just thought maybe the toilet paper and the bean connection. I was trying to make the
food that's being consumed.
It just was so.
I did see a funny tweet that said the same. It showed a guy had 3 shopping carts, just toilet paper piled up bigger than he was. It was 150 rolls of toilet paper, and it said it is interesting that the same people that said we don't need that much ammo. People don't need as much ammo as they're buying, seem to think you need a lot of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good
Which
point.
is my point, though. These people are trying to sell these spiritual principles. And, I thought about just all the products out there that do that. The other brand was that Angel Soft, I'm like.
Angelic.
How do you know the softness of the angelic world?
Yeah.
This is so soft.
On the food stuff and all.
Because you're floating on a cloud with the angels.
People, they think, I got to have it. That's the softest in the.
Because it's angel
soft. You got to remember, under self-quarantine, I'm able to get away with that down in here because Miss Kay, your mother, she has, I'm not going to call her a hoarder, but she has hoarding tendencies. But for some reason, she literally has a stockpile of food, either canned goods, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 or 5 freezers. We have ducks that we harvested during the winter. We have them; they're all dressed, but bagged up, And there's deer meat, and of course fish. We can just go catch them.
That's right.
We can just go catch fish. We never fail. We can get them. We've had the tackle to get them. So you say, no matter what month it is. So we got plenty of fish. We can make trout lines in 10 minutes, make a line with hooks on it, get them baited. There's nets of all kinds. So what I'm saying is there is a vast array. I would say just off the top of my head, a year's supply of various. Just go with the canned goods. Look, she has several walk-in pantries where you look and you're like, boy, what do you want?
Yeah.
In any line. So
Well, Missy
I'm
was
just
so-
saying, she did that this is way before we ever heard of coronavirus. She just keeps that kind of stockpile of goods.
And it's because you live out
rice
here, so
and big things like this.
it's because you live so far out. So let's take a
that's
quick
true.
break, and Jase, you give us your thought.
So Missy was so upset that people are this upset, but now she realizes, okay, we're gonna go with the plan and try to help the vulnerable, which is fine. But I noticed, because now I've been fishing almost every day. I was fishing yesterday in Willie's pond, and I sensed someone was watching me, you know. So I eased around and looked. Well, it's Willie. He's got his bucket. He's been fishing all day. Because now it's like we're kids again, you know. We can't go out. Let's just go fishing all day.
There's no sports on TV.
Yeah, and I strapped it. He had fished all day, and he had 6, and I caught 7 in 15 minutes because he didn't know there was a submerged Christmas tree where it was. But I showed it to him because he owns it, so I thought that would take.
That's the least you could do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Since it was his little lake.
Since I'm busted here, how about I tell him where the tree is? And he's like, "You're not gonna catch any. I've been fishing all day in 6." And I said, "Well, see that there? Because my cork." I had a cork with a jig on the bottom. I said, "See that cork? My cork was sideways." I said, "I'm on the back of a fish right now." He said, "No, you're not. You're hung up." I said, "I fish here all the time. That cork, my bait is lying on the back of a fish. That's why that cork is sideways." And he said, "Well, what are you waiting on?" I said, "I'm waiting on him to eat it." I said, "He's gonna get it." He said, "What?" He's like, "You're crazy." And I said, "Nope, I was waiting on that." Then that cork just went shoom. I said, "Yep, see, here we go." You know, then I started my. So I threw it out there again because they weren't biting. Because usually they just hit it when it's coming in there. But I put it right over that top. And I was like, "Oh, there it is again." I said, "I'm on another back." He's like, "Are you serious?" You'd wait about a minute and it. I said, "He just can't stand it, you know."
It's just laying there next to him.
Well, we caught the fish, but my wife, I noticed, she's using now these skills that I possess to live off the land. She's using that as a social media lightning rod because she showed the process. She came down, she took a picture, you know, of me cleaning them. Because I was like, what's she taking all these pictures for, you know? And I've told you the romance that follows, which is awesome. She showed me
You're just
cooking
trying
them.
for sex. She's got a whole nother.
That's right. She showed us eating them, and she's like, something to the effects on social media. You know, I'm blessed with, it was like gun toting, fish pole toting, wilderness man living in God's grocery store, something like that. And then she put a hashtag, "How you like me now?" So I was like, boy, you've gotten excited over this.
Sounds like to me she got a little carried away.
Well, I mean, she just said everybody's fearing and panicking, and then they're like, "What are you married to a wild man for?" And she's like, "In this environment, I feel secure because we don't have to panic and go to the grocery store if we need something to eat." My man, she went what was that guy who says, "I possess a certain set of skills."
Oh, that's Liam Neeson on Taken.
Yeah, I have that in the wilderness world. I possess a certain set of skills. Oh, we will eat tonight.
No problem on the grub.
So yesterday we had just to show you, even with a weird situation, people. There was a guy that came here, Kenny, our new brother, came from North Carolina. And because his birthday was yesterday, so he wanted to get baptized on his birthday. I mean, Kenny plays poker, so
And the church is closed.
the church is closed. Except we were there because we were doing the live stream, so we were like, "Come on in." And there was a handful of people there that didn't get the memo or whatever. There were probably about 20 people, 30 maybe. And so Kenny comes in, and he had a shirt that someone on his staff. He owns some restaurants in North Carolina, and it had a verse. I can't remember the verse, but then it had the day. Yesterday. So it was a camo t-shirt he was wearing yesterday. And so he's like, "This is my birthday, but this is going to be my new birthday, And so it was really cool. And so Dad and I baptized him. But I just thought about it, even with everything going on, like he left here rejoicing. He sent me a text, Dad. He got in like 2 a.m. He drove all the way back to North Carolina. But that's what kind of our focus is that like life goes on, new birth. I mean, like, things happen.
As I told him when he told me that, he said, "Today's my birthday." I said, that first birth from your mother gets you on the earth, Kenny. I said, the second birth is fixed to take place down in that river down there. I said, that'll get you off the earth.
That's
born
a good
of God.
line. That's a good line.
And so, there was another. There were 3 people from California. There's a young guy. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I know you were watching the podcast, but they were from California. They were just passing through. But here's what I love about our church. So Beverly Dobbs, they're meet because there's a little handful of people there. They meet them, and we kind of felt bad because we really didn't have the whole thing we normally do. And so she was like, why don't y'all come over to our group tonight? We got our group, and they were like, well, yeah, because they weren't leaving until today. And so I heard them making all their plans. They were like, what do we need to bring? They're we got plenty of food. Just y'all come on. And so I was thinking, man, that's the way you want to be. Like, they were just so hospitable, and they were like, man, we want you to have a great experience while you're here. Yeah. And so they were going to their group that night, which I thought that, so in spite of the virus, in spite of the fears, in spite of all the stuff, it's like, life goes on, I mean, lives change, things like that matter. So,
well, look, when I was telling you about coming back from on the airplane, I mean, I had other things that happened. There was a mom and the dad. They had 3 kids, and I got their ages. It was like 2.5, 1.5, and 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And they're on the plane.
Wow.
And I noticed the mom, she wiped down the seats and all. But when I looked at her, she looked like a canvas for these 3 kids, everything they had thrown at her up until this point. I mean, she is just a mess. And I watched her, and just an awesome mom. I mean, she was talking to the kids and in full control, and she disciplined the kids. And I
Which
just
is
thought
awesome.
this, and I met them at, when we were getting off the plane. And I just said, I nominate you Mother of the Year. I know I have no capacity of that. I said, but I watched you. It was just impressive, And I could tell it was a special moment for her that somebody acknowledged that. But anyway, I was walking I took a picture with the captain who flew the plane. And when we were walking out, but as I was leaving, well, everybody I had met from the pretzel line to Big Oscar who was on the plane, and they were all hollering, hey, what's it? And he was like, how do you, and plus I think it was such a diverse group because it was probably half African Americans, half white people. Some look poor, some look rich. He was like, how do you know all these people? I was like, well, I just met them. I said, but what we have in common, because every one of them in those moments, we had spiritual conversations about Jesus. And I said, that's what, of course, now, indirectly, I'm sharing Jesus with him because I was like, well, we have a bond in Jesus that, we're concerned for the vulnerable in the coronavirus era. I said, but what we share in Jesus is way greater than that. It puts a smile on your face.
Let's take one last break, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Jase, the verse that I read yesterday, which to me, this verse sounds just like what you did, which is awesome, and what we did too, but it really fits what you did at the airport. It's from Philippians 4, and it's verse 4, and Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. That's that idea about joy, even in spite of tough circumstances. Let your gentleness be evident to all, the Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And here's the key. Then the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Yeah. I mean, in a crisis, that's a great way to that's how I should go about my life.
Well, that's why I read the 2 Corinthians 11. Maybe I should have spelled it out. Look, God never promises you a pain-free, stress-free life. I mean, Paul, he gave a list, and none of our list can compare to that. There's going to be danger. There's going to be, things that happen in life for whatever reason, and, this is one of them.
He had taken numerous beatings to beat the fire. Finally killed him,
for loving Jesus.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, it wasn't like he was doing something wrong. So when you read something like that in Philippians, despite all our problems and stress and even the bad things that happen, we can find some joy that we know that it's not about this life, in its in entirety. We can have joy despite suffering and
immortality
pain.
Is a great thing to be sitting on.
Right. So we're assuming
hard to top.
We're assuming there's even more people that are going to be tuning in. because there's no sports on TV. We know a lot of our audience is guys, so that's one of the reasons why we want to talk about this today. And as we go forward, just to kind of give our take on what's important in the biblical way to try to approach this, because it is a crazy time for our culture and everything that's going on. So appreciate you guys tuning in today to Unashamed. So we're so glad you guys were with us today. You can subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube or Facebook, and be sure and rate us on iTunes so that other people can know about the podcast.